try to survive in Pokemon Battlewoods, an endless roguelike Pokemon game where you try to survive as long as you can with the Pokemon you have. And basically in this game, we're going to have ourselves 4 tries to get through this challenge, and if we lose those 4 tries, then that's it. So let's get started, ladies and gentlemen. First things first, of course, we're going to choose ourselves a starter Pokemon, as we do right here. So Professor Oak offers us 3 different starter Pokemon. We got Turtwig, Chimchar, and of course also Piplup. However, the game will have random starters each time. Sometimes you can have all of the Gen 4 starters, sometimes you can have 1 Gen 2, 1 Gen 3, and 1 Gen 4 Pokemon. It's super randomized in terms of what starter Pokemon you get. We also receive a potion, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we can enter the Battle Woods and try to make progress. So we have 4 tries, and this will be our first try on floor 1. So let's get started. So in the Battle Woods, you'll always have an option of going either left or right, and depending on which one you choose, you'll get to do different things. And of course, before you can do any of those paths, you have to always do a trainer battle, and in this case, it is a youngster trainer who has himself a Riolu and a Bunnelby, which we sweep through very quickly with Chimchar, which we chose as our starter Pokemon, of course. So the room to the right is the move relearner, and on the left side, it is to fight another trainer. So that's exactly what we do. We have another trainer battle, and after this one, of course, we're going to be able to either go and take on another battle, or go to Nurse Joy, which means we're going to be able to heal ourselves. So first up is the Lillipup in this battle, which we get through very easily with Chimchar. Next up is a Skitty. We use Power Up Punch, which does a lot of damage. It's very useful, and we're done with this one. Now we can either go heal up or take on the next challenge. Of course, I'd recommend to heal up if your team is low, because you won't always be healed up when you enter a new area. Sometimes you will, sometimes you won't. Also, in this case, we get to choose another Pokemon, and we have the option of I think, Bouffalant in this case, which I don't really know if that's really a choice I want to go for. We also have a Spheal, which, of course, is, well, Wilson from our previous challenges, and a Doduo. So we go for Doduo because it has Wing Attack, if I remember correctly, which is a great move in this case, so we keep that for that reason. Next, we can either go and take on another trainer or enter the Combat Teaching Room. Here, you can either get yourself an orb or a item by battling this guy on the right side, or if you talk to the guy on the left, you can actually buy things from him instead. It all really depends on what you want to do. And, well, we want to get ourselves a Flame Orb, so we have to battle him, and guess what? He's going to be battling us with a Slugma, which makes sense, right? Kind of to match with the item he's giving you. So we go for Power Up Punch. Doesn't really do a lot. We get Incinerated, which is a lot of damage. We go for Fury Swipes, hoping it will do quite a lot of damage on our end, which it does do. And yeah, after a very hectic battle, I'm not going to lie, I start thinking to myself, should I switch into Doduo? Should I use the one potion I have? There's a few different options, so we go for the potion as it made the most amount of sense, and then we try to go for a Fury Swipe, hoping it will be enough to kill this Slugma, which it is, and we defeat it, and now we get the Flame Orb, which is great. But we can also, of course, talk to the guy on the left here. And this guy actually sells a bunch of TMs for different amounts of money. So if you talk to him, he'll sell you different possible things. And in this case, I got ourselves Fire Punch because I thought it'd just be kind of nice to have that, as I do think our Chimchar in this case, unless I was wrong here, I do think it's a pretty much physical attacker just across the board. And I think even our nature matched that very well. So I decided, okay, you know what? We're going to go all in on just the physical moves, and that's what we did. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're now able to take on another trainer, which is exactly what we do. This guy's got a Minchino to start off. We go with the Fire Punch, which defeats it right away. Next up is the Bidoof, and the same thing happens here. And ladies and gents, we defeat another battle. And next up is, of course, going to be Team Rocket. So, Team Rocket, of course, going to be showing up in between these different routes. And in this case, well, guess what? We're popping up against them once again. We have a Team Rocket Grunt coming up against us. And as you guys know, Chimchar's going to do all the work against this guy. So he starts up with a Mankey at level 12. Of course, our Chimchar is higher level, but we have a low HP. The Fire Punch gets the hit right off the bat. And then we have the Makuhita. And I'm not going to be honest, I was a little bit scared here. This thing, it was very close, where we could have easily been taken out by the Makuhita, and I don't think we have any revives, but nonetheless, we do defeat him. We actually receive an item, and we move on to the next battle. Here we have ourselves another regular trainer right before we can go to Professor Oak to receive another Pokemon. Of course, again, it's just a Lillipup, so not a big deal. A Fire Punch goes through. We get hit with a Bite, doesn't do a lot of damage, so we're lucky with that one. Next up is going to be a Skitty, which, again, not too worrisome. The Fire Punch just twice, and it is going to be gone, ladies and gents. So there you go. Now we can talk to Professor Oak and receive ourselves another Pokemon. But before that, we have ourselves a Monferno. Yes, Chimchar decides to actually evolve, and we got ourselves a brand new Pokemon in our team, which is perfect because, of course, we want to get the Infernape, as it'll be a lot stronger. And, of course, we also got the Mach Punch, ladies and gents. I get rid of, I think in this case, Fury Swipes, because I realized they're not going to be as useful. But nonetheless, we continue on. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we're now talking to Professor Oak, and we have the option of either getting a Corsola, a Riolu, or a Tynamo. Now, I actually decide to go for the Tynamo and not the Riolu, which may have been a bit of a mistake, but nonetheless, we go to the Pokemon Mart here and buy ourselves a few potions, which will be necessary later on. Then we got to take on another challenge. This time, the Kid's got himself a Hoot Hoot. Again, not too big of a deal. We go for the Fire Punch, which does a lot of damage. It's a one-hit KO this time as well. And of course, the Rattata is going to be in pretty much the same situation. But ladies and gentlemen, what's going to be happening next is a little bit more worrisome. After we defeat this kid, we can now heal ourselves at Nurse Joyce's, well, Pokemon Center. And once we've done that, the problems actually begin, because we are about to now take on the boss of the first floor. So there are different bosses on each floor, and on this floor, it's specifically going to be this lad right here, ladies and gentlemen. So our team is looking okay. We've got 3 Pokemon, but this can really go bad for us. So let's try our best against Elite Four Bruno, who kicks off with a Goomy. Now, I should point out at this point that I am actually really bad at Pokemon. And don't judge me in the comment section, because I know you guys. I see you guys down there. I'm really bad at competitive Pokemon. I'm not very good at battling. I just play Pokemon for the story and the adventure and stuff. So as you may notice, I will make a lot of mistakes throughout this playthrough. But fear not, I still make good progress. So Dratini is up next here after the Goomy. We get it with a few good hits. As you may notice, we get the Mac Punch through, and it does a decent amount of damage. Monferno is still alive, luckily, when the Axew comes through. It does have Mold Breaker in this case, so it's a bit annoying, but nonetheless, this gets the Leer off on us, but we do get the W, and we win ourselves our first battle against one of the bosses on the first floor. And after doing this, we now have ourselves an Eviolite that's been given to us as well. And yeah, we can use that, or we don't have to use that. It's really up for debate if we want to or don't want to. But nonetheless, we don't really need it for Monferno. And now we can move on to the next level. But before we go on to the next level, we meet Professor Oak, who offers us a Pokemon. We got ourselves Float Seal. We also have, well, a little Skitty if we really want that, and Happiny as well. But of course, we're going to go for the Float Seal because we got a few decent moves on there. So that's exactly what we do. We got ourselves Float Seal, and now, ladies and gentlemen, we enter the next floor. So as you may notice, the floors are pretty much always the same looking wise, but the characters in there will always be somewhat different. This trainer, for example, has a Bayleaf, which is not that big of a deal of, you know, a challenge, so to say. We got Fire Punch, of course, on Monferno. Next up is Graveler. At this point, I thought to myself, okay, a Power Up Punch should do the job, right? The Rock Throw comes in, which scares me a little bit because it does quite a decent amount of damage. Nonetheless, we do get the W there, and then we only have the Ivysaur left. So a pretty easy battle to start things off with on the second floor so far. Now we can either go to the move relearner or take on the next challenge. Of course, we don't really need to relearn any sort of moves, so we just go straight in for the next battle. And as you may notice right here, I think our Pokemon has not been healed up. And this is because some floors it will heal up, some it won't. You'll kind of figure that out yourself if you do play the game. We go for Power Up Punch, which gets me a little bit scared because we end up losing Monferno here. And yeah, this is where the panic starts kicking in. But nonetheless, I do remember we do have 1 revive, so I can always do that. Now, what you may notice is you can revive a Pokemon during battle, but you cannot revive a Pokemon after the battle is over, because then the Pokemon is considered dead. So as long as you're in a battle and you have a Pokemon you kind of want to revive or save, you should definitely do it. You know what I mean? Just do it during that moment. At this point, I wasn't really sure what to do against a Grottle. Either we could just switch into our, you know, very injured Monferno, or stay in with the Duo, which does a lot of damage with that wing attack, which is a saving grace. And that's kind of why I chose the Duo earlier, because of the wing attack, because it can come in really handy against some of those bug types, even grass types in this case. But overall, it's just a strong move, and the Duo is doing a great job defeating this last. And also, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? We got the evolution, and we get ourselves a Dodrio, and that's awesome, because we also get Tri-Attack, I think, after this at this point. So it's a brand new move. It's a good move. However, I do know that one of the challenges, this is just from the fact that I've, you know, played this game already, that one of the next challenges, it can be a little bit complicated if you have a normal type, and you will notice why. Nonetheless, though, we go heal up at Nurse, you know, Joyce, and after doing this, we can now talk to Professor Oak to get ourselves another Pokemon to our team. The options are a Horsey, which I don't really know if that's the smartest to go for. Delibird isn't really the best either, and we have an Apom, so my choices are a bit split, and I make the mistake of going for Horsey, which I quickly realized afterwards, maybe I shouldn't, because I already have a water type, which was Float Seal. So I realized, yeah, that was not what I should have done. I realized that very quickly. Then we talk to the combat trainers, and now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to take on the next thing, which is going to be another Lass. This Lass is the one right before we take on the next team, Rocket Grunt. Now, of course, luckily she has a Clank, so the Fire Punch comes in. We almost get it with a one-hit KO, but it just survives barely right there. And then it is fine, because the second hit gets it. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Lombre is up next, and here I make the mistake of staying in with Monferno, which I should not be doing. I should be switching out here because, well, the water typing on there with the Bubble Beam can do a lot of damage. Next up is Nuzleaf, though, and luckily we have the Fire Punch, which comes through, and it is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Now we have, ladies and gentlemen, Team Rocket coming up next. Now, this battle can go either way, to be frankly honest. I mean, it is a Team Rocket grunt, and usually these guys have, well, a lot of mixed Pokemon. So Clefairy's up first. I'm going to be honest, it just kept metronoming me non-stop over and over and over again, and it just didn't work out in my favor, but eventually we got it. Spiritomb was next, though, and this one we got with about 2 hits, which was great because, I'm going to be honest, I was very scared. It's a Spiritomb. These things are scary. Next up was Cofagrigus, and at this point, I wasn't sure what to do. If we stayed in, we ran the risk of losing Monferno, and I really wanted an Infernape, to be frankly honest. So we switched over into Float Seal. We take a lot of damage at this point. I go for Ice Beam, which I was hoping maybe we'd get like the freeze hacks, but it really didn't work out in our favor. Go for another Ice Beam, and we end up losing Float Seal, which I realized, yeah, was maybe a mistake. Shouldn't have probably done that, but it is what it is. And at this point, I'm kind of a little bit worried about losing all my Pokemon, and I'm not really even sure what moves I have on all of them. I go for Dragon Breath. We lose Horsey from this, so both of our Pokemon now are gone, and we're just going to shove in a Dynamo. We go for Spark, which doesn't do a lot. The Mummy ability comes through there, of course, and we go for Charge Beam, which is just enough to get rid of it, so that means we get the win and the W here, but we ended up losing 2 Pokemon in the process. Again, as you may notice, I'm not very good at Pokemon. However, though, Infernape decides to evolve, and we got ourselves a fully involved now Infernape. So there you go. So we could have actually gone to the right side here to take on an Elite Trainer, but I decided to not do that. Now, if you defeated an Elite Trainer in this game, you basically receive like a rare candy or just an item, so to say. However, I decided that wasn't really worth it. I go for Close Combat on the Seadra here because we've got Close Combat now that we evolved it into an Infernape, or Monferno, of course. And yeah, we do get Poison here, which is really frustrating to me. I realized very quickly that that's a bit of a risk, but I'm kind of stuck at this point because, well, guess what? This thing has Flash Fire. It kills my Infernape. Luckily, though, I should point out, we do have a few options here. I do think we have a, I think a Revive, but I wasn't really sure if that was going to be the case. The Spot comes through, and luckily, the Paralyze comes through as well. So I go for the Revive to make sure Infernape is alive for the next, possible Pokemon that might pop up, as well as for the fact that I didn't want to lose it going into the next battle. That was kind of my biggest fear right here. So we go for Spark again on the Vanillish. They kill our Dynamo with that, which means we can revive it now. I go back into Infernape because we do have the Fire Punch on there. And just, Fire type moves, even, Fighting type moves against the Ice type is just going to work in our favor. However, that was that. We won the battle, and now we can get ourselves a new Pokemon. And we're only down to 2 now, so a third one is really, really, really needed. First up, of course, is going to be Girafarig. We don't really need that. Shmuna, whatever you want to call it, is not going to be useful either. I found an Electabuzz, and I thought, Electabuzz, guess what? We need some electric moves. Why not? Now, we can go to the Pokemon on the right side here, which we end up doing because there are some items that we do need. Like more potions would be nice. More just items in general would be nice to have. And of course, this is the thing in this game. You have to make really, specific decisions. Do you want to spend your money on healing items, or do you want to spend your money on buying, TMs and moves like that? Because you will lose all your TMs and stuff when you go into a next area. So just keep that in mind. Nonetheless, though, we do have Super Potions, so we make sure to heal up Infernape here to full health. And now we can take on the last. And after we're done with this last, we're going to be able to take on, finally, the second floor boss, and the second floor boss will usually be harder. So first up, of course, going to be a Murkrow. We go right in there, defeat it straight away. It is gone, leaving a Pidgeotto up next against us. And at this point, I'm not really feeling like it's too much risk. I feel like we're pretty safe. So even against this Crocodile, I just go for Power Up Punch because I'm not too fearful of it killing us or anything. And Power Up Punch works in our favor, and we get the last win. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we can go and heal up and take on the second floor boss. So who's it going to be this time around? Well, last time it was Bruno, so you can kind of already make a guess of who it's going to be. I mean, you can pretty much figure it out. So, ladies and gentlemen, are you ready? We are fully healed on all our Pokemon, and it's time to take on the next boss, and that's going to be Agatha. So she's got herself a Frillish first up, which is really scary. I go back and just kind of switch over into Electabuzz at this point because I realize we're not going to be doing too well here, are we? So I go in, we go for the Thunder Punch, which is really powerful. The Nightshade comes through. Then she decides to switch, and this is where things go really bad. Golett comes out. We don't really know what to do. I go for Screech to just lower its defense. It kills us with the Rock Slide. We're now down to 2 Pokemon. I realized very quickly that I was about to make a mistake. I was about to go Power Up Punch against a Pokemon that can't be hit with Power Up Punch or any fighting type moves. I made a total mistake there. That was literally my screw up, and I just gone for Fire Punch right away. We wouldn't have lost a lot of HP there. Next up, of course, is going to be this thing. I again make the mistake. I forget that all these things are freaking, Ghost type Pokemon. I forget that. That totally slips my mind that they're all Ghost types. Again, I just forget these things when I'm playing Pokemon, and now we're kind of stuck. This thing is not going to be hit by any of our moves. I mean, Infernape is literally the worst Pokemon against it. It goes for Hex, and at this point, we can only really do one thing, which is to switch into Dodrio. But on Dodrio, I forget that we do have Wing Attack. I totally slipped my mind. I kept thinking about us having only normal type moves. I forgot about the fact that we had, you know, well, options, basically. I forgot we had other options for moves we could use. So Wing Attack is what I use here. Does a bit of damage. However, the Flamethrower comes through there, and then the Energy Ball just ends our Dodrio, and it ends our first run, ladies and gentlemen. And now that you've ended the run, you can now go and pick one of the Pokemon that you had and try to do a run again with it, and it will be reset to level 15 and have its original moveset from, you know, when you just found it. So that's what we end up doing, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time to do a second run. Now, the second run ends up actually being pretty darn solid. We get through the battles pretty easily. We defeat the food trainers in the beginning pretty solidly, and then we get to choose ourselves a second Pokemon. And this time around, we have a few different options. One of the options is actually going to be, well, a Baltoy. We don't really need that. We also have a Larvesta and, of course, a Maractus. So we decided to go for Maractus in this case. And you might be wondering, well, I should have gone for the Larvesta. And yeah, I really should have. But I thought we already have a fire type. Don't really see the point of having another fire type, so maybe we shouldn't do this time around. However, the Patrat comes out, and we defeat that easily, and then a Poochyena as well with the power-up punch. So as you may notice, the first few battles are very simple. They're not very difficult, but once we get over to the more difficult ones, things start changing. So we speed through some of the battles right here against the Team Rocket Grunts and just regular Grunts, and then it's time to get ourselves a brand new Pokemon. And the options here are, well, a few different ones. We've got Kecleon, we've got Shieldon and whatnot, and Pichu. I go for Pichu because of the electric typing. Then we get to take on an Elite Trainer. I decided to go and take on the Elite Trainer battle here because the reward for it is actually pretty neat. So first up is Munna, which we hit with the Ember right here. We take a lot of damage from it though, which scares me a little bit, but we end up surviving the hit, and now we can go and get ourselves Flame Wheel, which I switch out, of course, because, well, Flame Wheel just feels a lot more useful than Fury Swipes and Taunt. Now, what do? Well, we switch out Taunt, and that's exactly what happens. We got a Porygon up next. I make the decision to just go Flame Wheel it. We get the burn, luckily, and we survive the hit from the Porygon, so we do survive the battle, and we get rewarded with a rare candy and some extra money, and now we can heal up and take on the first floor boss again. Now, what you may notice about the first floor boss in this game is that it's always the same bosses on the different floors. However, they have different teams. This time, you can see he has a team of fighting types, kicking off with the Mienfoo, so we get rid of it very easily. Again, not a big problem. Timber is up next, though. We go for Power Up Punch again, as it just gives us that increased attack, which we really do need, as our Infernape is going all physical in this case. We get fully through this team with just the use of Infernape, so we defeat the Makuhita, and we've now finished the first floor boss again, ladies and gentlemen. And as you realize, as you're doing this, you're gonna have to rebattle this guy multiple times. It's gonna be a non-stop repetitive thing as you're going through. Now, as you make it to floor 2, you will also notice that your Pokemon levels get boosted to level 30, and of course, also you receive a brand new Pokemon. And in this case, we have 3 new options. We got either Dugtrio, which actually is a pretty solid Pokemon in this case. We got also a Phoebus, or we got a Baltoy. Now, I decide, okay, you know what? We have a few different options of what we can go to. Well, Dugtrio seems to be the best choice. So we get Dugtrio into our team, and now we can move on to the next battle, which is through a bunch of lasses. So all these different lasses have different Pokemon, and we can speed through them. Maractus comes in really handy, actually, but ends up dying, and then we kind of also lose Pichu after we use the Revive. So there's a lot of fluctuation in what Pokemon we end up using throughout a lot of these battles, as you may notice. Then we get to choose a new Pokemon to add to our team. We have Tauros as an option. We have a Minun, Plusle, whatever you want to call them, and a Donphan. I go for Donphan because it has knockoff, so that might be happy, you know, kind of useful later on. We then go to the, well, trainer dudes again, and we get ourselves a few TMs that we add to our Pokemon and sweep through a bunch of lasses before taking on a Team Rocket Grunt that I'm going to be honest, I was a little bit scared about because they end up killing our Dugtrio with this thing. So we're down to 4 Pokemon at this point, leaving a very strange challenge in our wake. Nonetheless, we have 4 Pokemon. We have a 5th one to be added to our team. I decided to go for the Sneasel in this case out of all these options of Tropius, Raticate, and Sneasel. For the first second, I was thinking about maybe Tropius, but then I go for Sneasel because I thought, well, some of these moves could be useful in case we, you know, go up against a potential dragon type or something. I don't know. Either way, Frillish is right here in front of us. First up, we go in with Maractus. I go for the Leech Seed, which is great as it just gives us a little bit of leeway, right, to kind of make it through this battle. Now, we're doing quite a lot of damage. The Frillish is about to die, and as you may notice, her team actually stayed the same on the second run. So the teams are randomized, but they have a few set teams that you will run into. Golett hits us really hard, but we do have the Leech Seed set up, so I go for a Sucker Punch, which is so freaking strong, and then the Leech Seed does its work, and Maractus is such a useful Pokemon in this case. Now, I should have actually switched switched out Maractus here. I totally forgot this thing was, again, fire typing. I just end up making a lot of mistakes because I'm recording these videos at the randomest times when I probably shouldn't be up. Also, I've given Thunder Punch to Infernape. It's a TM that I actually ended up buying from the training dudes, and it's really useful because it helps us in this situation when we're up against Pokemon where we can't really do a lot of damage with some of our moves. So it is fine though. Thunder Punch comes through, it kills the Mismagius, and we defeated Agatha, ladies and gentlemen, which means now we get to choose one of these items, a Choice Scarf, Choice Specs, or Choice Band. You get to get one of these items from Agatha at the end of this battle right here, and we are kind of, you know, trying to choose what's going to be the best. I think Choice Band, in my personal opinion, was the best choice, so that's kind of what I end up going for. We take Choice Band, and I end up Choice Banding, I think, by Infernape. Then we get to choose a new Pokemon. We've got Venusaur, Galvantula, and Gothithiel, whatever it's called. We go for the Venusaur because I just think Venusaur should be a pretty chunky Pokemon. Also, this guy right here, he now, after you defeated the 2 bosses, you can now use him to evolve Pokemon in your party. We get Night Slash, so we switch our Fury Strike for that. And then, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to just sweep through a bunch of these trainers, which is exactly what we do. I end up getting a little bit scared there because we almost lose Venusaur and Infernape in this case. Then we have a Buffalint. We sweep through again this team. We get Poison in this case as well, and we end up losing one of our Pokemon, which was very disappointing to say the least. So we're down to 3 Pokemon, and this is where this run, which was, I would argue, our best run in this playthrough, actually ends, because our last 2 tries are not going to be the best, and I think you know what that means. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're up against Giovanni right here, as you may notice. On the second floor, he is the Team Rocket boss you have to battle, and I'm going to be honest, he is really freaking strong. So he goes up right up with a Gyarados and whatnot. We've got Venusaur in here. I tried to use Synthesis a few times and try to set up a Solar Beam. We go for a Sludge Bomb as well, which does get Poison, so that was good. The Earthquake comes in, though, and then, of course, we win with, thanks to the Poison and the Sludge Bomb, to be frankly honest. Excavalier is up next, and I don't really have a lot of options. This thing is about to destroy us. And that's exactly what it does. We pretty much get hit with the Iron Head nonstop. We try to use Synthesis, but Iron Head just keeps coming. We can't use, I mean, really any of our moves in this case. Solar Beam would take too much of a setup to do, so I'm a bit stuck with it, and I don't know what to do, man. I decided to switch over into Weavile, which probably wasn't the best choice because the Iron Head just one-hit KOs us. We then go back into Venusaur, or actually we're going to Infernape first, but he's also poisoned, so he can't really do much. Go for Power Up Punch. I probably should have gone for one of my, Fire-type moves, which I didn't do, which, again, another mistake from my end. We go into Ledian, which is a Pokemon we also received earlier. Air Slash doesn't do anything. We are still poisoned as well, by the way, so that's not helping us either. And now Venusaur has to do the work on its own, ladies and gentlemen. And yeah, it's not really much it can do. We don't even have Double Edge anymore. We get taken out. And ladies and gentlemen, our second run is stopped by Rocket Boss Giovanni. But this is the kind of fun thing about this game, is that you make progress slowly and you learn what you're gonna go up against. And you try not to make mistakes the way I do, because I am dog at Pokemon. I am straight up dog shit. So don't listen to me when it comes to competitive Pokemon. I am ass at it. Nonetheless, ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 tries left. Now, our third try ends up actually being one of the most boring ones, because we make it only to really Agatha. She has a team of all the elemental monkeys, so Simisear, Simisage, and whatnots. And the Simisear, well, we get rid of that one pretty quickly because we get a Gyarados through our run here. But the Simipour, well, that one is a bit more of a different story. We go for Crunch, which doesn't do too much damage. We get Slept, which is annoying. And as you may notice, we have no starter Pokemon because we ended up losing it throughout this run. So I go over and use my Miltank, but the Thunder Punch doesn't hit, which is very disappointing. So Sigilyph comes in next, and Sigilyph was actually a really good Pokemon in this run. It genuinely was a fantastic Pokemon. However, at this point, it's not really much that it can do either. It has 2 HP left, and we're up against for crying out loud, it's a straight up freaking Simisage, and we have 2 Pokemon that are either low HP and or can't do anything. We had a Revive, and we have a Potion, so I think to myself, either we revive the Miltank, or we save it, and we use it later, which, well, it's really up for debate on which one we should do here. So we could have either saved it for the Sigilyph, or just done it the other way around. Plus, we're sleeping with Gyarados, which is an even bigger problem. The Seed Bomb, I think, comes in there. Sigilyph goes in. I decide to revive Gyarados because I think to myself, maybe Gyarados is going to be more useful down the line. Maybe, possibly, we'll see. However, ladies and gentlemen, this really wasn't the best choice. And yeah, this is pretty much where the run here on the second try pretty much ends, because we do get the few hits through. And don't ask me why I have a Fire-type move on Gyarados. It's just a TM we got, and I decided just, might as well give it Fire Blast. Why not? It just makes sense in my opinion. However, this Gyarados comes out. We have no heals at this point. We have no potions, no nothing. So we have no options, and we end up losing our second run. However, our third run is actually one of the most interesting ones. You guys see, on our fourth try, we basically decided to reset the game. We reset the game so we'd have new starter Pokemon and new options just to see what it would be like, because I thought to myself, well, I might as well, because I'm going to keep having the Infernape over and over again. So I want to see what it would be like if I had a different Pokemon. And we got ourselves a Charmander, actually. So that's what ends up happening. We have a Charmander as our option, and now we actually make it all the way back to Giovanni again. And so we're going to take Giovanni on once again. He starts off with a Melodic. We have a Cradilly, which we switch into. We got the Energy Ball. We also get the Burn on the Melodic, which is great. However, we're kind of in a risky situation here. However, we end up doing enough damage where we actually get it. Then we switch over to Charizard against the Escavalier. He also has a Gyarados in that team, so we switch over into, well, two of our other Pokemon, two of our fossil Pokemon, which end up both dying. So we only have Charizard left at the end there, as you may notice, and I have only literally one Pokemon left, and now I still got to take on one more battle before I can talk to Professor Oak and get myself a new Pokemon. So we flamethrower our way through that team, and now Oak gives us a few options, and we take the Nidoking as the option. We then buy ourselves a few items because, well, what else can we really do, as we're about to head into the third level boss, actually. This is the boss on the third floor is what's coming up next, and it's, I'm going to be honest, a little bit worrisome. I'm not going to lie. It's a bit stressful taking on this next person because they can pretty much annihilate us. So we heal up first and foremost, and who is it if not Misty, ladies and gentlemen? And she has a team of fire types. First up is Ninetales, which we defeat. Then a really aggressive Darmanitan, which I think to myself, maybe we can defeat it, but turns out we can't. Well, we do, but it ends up killing our boy Nidoking. Then we get the Venusaur. Next up is a Charizard, which we lose against. And ladies and gentlemen, that ends our fourth run. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the game. If you guys want to check the game out, then you should just, you know, check it out. Go give it a try. Pokemon Battle Woods. If you guys want to join our Discord, there are links to stuff there. So go there, join our Discord if you want to be part of the community, and I'll see you guys in the next one.